The point of this particular project is that we're working with the Moredun Scientific Limited, one of our key partners here in the UK, to develop a challenge model for the strain of Streptococcus suis that is most prevalent in the UK.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Jeremy Salt, the CEO of the Vaccine Group, a Frontier IP Group portfolio company. Jeremy, very good to speak with you today. Could you start by telling us why this disease is so serious?
Yeah, I think one of the main considerations with Streptococcus suis, the focus of this particular project is that it's a global disease. It's proven to be one of the most difficult diseases to control around the world. It's caused by a bacterium that has a lot of strain variation, which you may be familiar with from the COVID pandemic. At the moment, the major control strategy is through the use of antibiotics, and I'm sure everybody's aware of the great pressure there is from governments and national international bodies to try to reduce the amount of antibiotic use in livestock farming. So this is a global disease caused by a bacterium. The vaccines available are currently not seen to be particularly efficient, and especially with dealing with the various strains around the world. So, for example, the UK has a particular strain. In other parts of Europe, there is another predominant strain, and then around the world, you'll see several other different strains. So that's one of the key components, is that it's difficult to control with a single approach because of the strain variation. The levels of infection in Europe and the UK are around 50% of all commercial pig herds are suffering from this disease at the moment.
So you mentioned antibiotics and also vaccines. How else is the disease treated at the moment?
Well, the treatment would be primarily through antibiotics, and they can be used for therapeutic treatment of a clinical case, but more often they're used prophylactically alongside what would be a vaccination program. So vaccines would also be used prophylactically to try to prevent infection and clinical disease. In intensive swine farming, then antibiotics would also be used in a similar fashion at the moment to try to prevent disease rather than actually treating individual clinical cases. Those really are the only two things that are available at the moment, and inefficient as they are in their own ways. The only other method that's used primarily in developed countries is through high levels of biosecurity, trying to prevent the infection coming in the first place. But as I mentioned, at the moment, we're looking at 50 to 60% infection rates across Europe, including England and the UK.
So, Jeremy, what will the funding be used for?
So we've got to a certain point from a previous Innovate UK grant that we held. We've got to a point now where we have a candidate vaccine. The point of this particular project is that we're working with the Moredun Scientific Limited, one of our key partners here in the UK, to develop a challenge model for the strain of Streptococcus suis that is most prevalent in the UK. So the money will be used to work with Moredun to help to develop a challenge model, and then what we'll be doing is growing up our vaccine to a high enough level that we can put it into a reasonable number of pigs to conduct a statistically significant study to look at a cross-protection challenge now. So we're developing a vaccine that we hope will have global application, but one of the key aspects for us is to show that it actually works against the prevalent strain in the UK. So basically, we're developing a challenge model and then using our vaccine in this challenge model to show that we've got efficacy in a rigorous process under controlled conditions.
What's the time frame for the project?
So the whole program runs for around 2 years. We've got funding for 2 years, and with our partners, that's what we're working towards. There are other elements to the program that are being carried out by the University of Plymouth, one of our partners, and the University of Cambridge. So the model development is going to take us 6 to 9 months, and then we have a period of around 4 to 5 months when we'll be looking at the efficacy of the vaccine in the study and then analysing the results. At the end of that, there is a dissemination aspect. So this is the area that University of Cambridge particularly responsible for, where they'll be going out, interacting with English pig farmers to share the results of the study and discuss ways that the vaccine can then be integrated into control strategies for pig farmers here in England, in the UK, but also across Europe and potentially across the rest of the world.
There's a lot going on at TVG. What other developments can we look forward to, Jeremy?
Well, we've actually been very successful with grant applications recently. So we have another small grant to work on another pig vaccine, African swine fever, which is another global disease at the moment. It's spread out of Africa, its traditional homeland, into particularly across Eastern Europe and now into Southeast Asia and the Far East, into the big pig populations in China. Half of the world's pigs live in China. So that's one very interesting prospect. We have a candidate vaccine there. We're working with the Pirbright Institute here in the UK on that one. And in addition to that, we recently got an Innovate UK Smart grant to work on two very important global cattle vaccines. So bovine respiratory syncytial virus, which is a global disease of commercial cattle farming, and also lumpy skin disease, which similar to what African swine fever has done recently in the pig population. This is a disease of cattle. It used to be largely based in sub-Saharan Africa, ingresses into the Middle East. It's now had another global spread right the way across into the Far East as well. So those are two diseases that we already have candidate vaccines for, that we're now using that money to take them further on and actually show in cattle efficacy studies that they actually give good protection.
Jeremy, I hope you'll keep us updated on any progress. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Jeremy Salt is the CEO of the Vaccine Group.